All right, let's do the hyperbolas. So the standard form of the equation of a hyperbola with foci, negative 1, 5, and negative 1, 1. So negative 1, 5, I'm up here. Negative 1, 1, down here. What does that tell you?
That it's vertical.
Vertical, which means what?
Y is A.
Good. The y comes first. Yes, I know what you meant, right? And the y gets the a. So it also means what about the asymptotes? If it's vertical, what's a over b or b over a? It's a over b. So start training your brain to check for that too when it asks for the asymptotes, okay? All right, this one obviously didn't ask for asymptotes, but it's a good practice. All right, so now I need to know, from knowing my foci, I can also determine what? My center. So I can either find the midpoint using the coordinate points, or I could eyeball it if I actually graphed it and spread them out accurately. So negative 2 over 2, 6 over 2 gives me negative 1, 3 for my center. Now I know all the numerators because it'd be y minus 3 squared minus x plus 1 squared equals 1. And then what letter does foci give you? C. So from negative 1, 3 to negative 1, 4, or sorry, not negative 1, 5, or negative 1, 1, my C distance is 2. Then the second piece of information that it gives you is the vertices, negative 1, 2. And negative 1, 4. So from my center, which is negative 1, 3, to either negative 1, 2 or negative 1, 4, it tells you you're going up and down what? 1. So A is 1. And C squared equals A squared plus B squared for a hyperbola. So 2 squared would equal 1 squared plus B squared. 4 equals 1 plus B squared, and B squared is 3. So y minus 3 squared goes over a squared, which would be 1. You don't need that denominator, but if you want to put it, I'm not going to mark it wrong. And the x plus 1 squared goes over the b squared, which is 3. So that, or just y minus 3 squared equals 1. Either of those works. Raise your hand if you got it right. Okay, good. Good. Okay, just be careful. So like figure these are like whatever point value they're worth, every little bit of it will get some. So like a mix of a sign is going to lose partial credit, but not the whole thing.
Wait, does it matter? Oh, I almost.
Nope.
I didn't. I swapped my. Yeah,
That's what Sebastian just said. It's because your brain always says X goes first, but X doesn't always go first.
I just like.
So instead of putting.
You did. You switched. Because your brain tells you that this is your X, and
because
the X goes first. You
literally
go, oh, the X goes first, and you put it with that. That's what your brain does. You got to retrain it. You got to say which one is after the Y, that's the K.
Y plus 3.
Oh, okay. All right, number 2, put the equation into standard form. Identify the center, the vertices, the foci, and the asymptotes. So all the parts this time, after we complete the square for both the X and the Y. So be careful with the sign on the y's, right? When I take out that negative 4, the negative comes out of both. And that's a common mistake made here. So if I take out the 9, I get x squared minus 2x. I'm leaving the space. If I take out the negative 4, it changes the sign on the negative 4y squared, but it also changes the sign on the 16y. And I would say that's something that happens a lot. People forget to change the sign on that one, which would then change your sign on your center, like everything gets swapped. Now I got to complete those spaces. So the 2 divided by 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. I'm going to add it here. Before I add it here, I'm going to multiply it by 9. Also a mistake people make. And then same with the 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2. 2 squared is 4. I add the 4. Before I add it here, I have to multiply by a negative 4. So I'm subtracting 16. Coefficients stay on there, so the 9's on the front, square root first, square root last. Take the sign from the middle, put it in parentheses, and square it. Minus 4, square root first, square root last, sign from the middle, put it in parentheses, and square it. All right, then 43 plus 9 is 52, minus 16 is 36. And then it's got to equal what? 1, so I divide everything by 36. I get x minus 1 squared over 4 minus y minus 2 squared over 9 equals 1. And now you're in standard. So that will earn you a chunk of points on a question like this that's broken down into multiple parts. That will earn you a certain amount of points, right? Let's say you get that wrong, but then you use it correctly to find the remaining stuff. You're not, I'm going to, like, we'll call that like that carry through error. You're not going to lose credit on both, but you would lose the credit on that part of your question. Now tell me what you know about the hyperbola. Center is 1, 2. A is 2, B is 3, right? Yeah, 3. What else? Well, what direction does it face? It's horizontal, and if it's horizontal, does my asymptote get an A over B or a B over A? B over A. So it says vertices, which will include covertices, and it says foci, which means I have one more thing to find, and that's C. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. For hyperbolas, C squared would equal 4 plus 9, 13, and C is square root 13. Now I find all the parts. So I will give you a little scrap of graphing paper again, because this question may or may not ask you to graph, and if it doesn't, I want you to be able to actually be able to plot it, because it's easier to visualize it, okay? So my center is at 1, 2. It's horizontal, so I'm going right and left. The A, right 2, left 2, gives me vertices at negative 1, 2, and 3, 2. Up and down B, which is 3, gives me co-vertices at 1, 5, and 1, negative 1. Then you could do your little box. Find the corners. Draw your asymptotes. And we said it's horizontal, so our branches point right and left. You do not need to graph your foci, okay? But obviously we still need to find them because it asks for it. So my foci goes the same as your transverse axis. So they go right and left here because it's horizontal. I take my center, which is 1, change the x. So plus and minus square root 13, 2. Those would be your foci. And then asymptotes, equation for asymptotes is y equals k. Plus and minus, we said it's b over a because it's horizontal. B over a, x minus h. So y equals, the k is 2. Plus and minus, b was 3. A is 2, x minus 1. So all those different parts.
We don't have to distribute it?
Nope. If you want, I would say if you wanted to graph it, it might be easier for you to distribute it, but you don't need to. You can use the box. Yeah.
Are we going to have to draw the box in the test?
Yeah. You're going to have at least one graph of each conic. You're going to have at least one equation of each conic. You're going to have, I think I have you complete the square maybe twice, not all 4 times. Yeah.
Is that always going to be divisible, like on the test, you're going to make it, or is it going to be that you're going to have to simplify?
Like your A and B, you mean? Which one?
Like how you divided by 36.
Oh, it will simplify. It just may not simplify into a perfect square. We've had a lot of those. Like you could get 12 as a denominator, something like that. Yeah. All right, then we get the identify the conic, right? So we're looking for A and C here. A is what's in front of the x squared. C is what's in front of the y squared. What's true about the product of 9 and negative 4?
It's a negative.
Negative, which means? Hyperbola. Good. I'm still working on it because I haven't, like, to tell you a certain, it's not a lot of numbers, but within them, there could be like a lot of parts. So tomorrow I will tell you how many blanks it is. I don't know if that helps you. There's like one like that though. There's about 2 for each conic. Yeah. All right. We said we're going to skip the rotation because we didn't go over it, and we're going to go to the review note. Okay. So let's fill this out. This is going to go through all the formulas and all the stuff that you need to know to complete your review. Your PDF review is also posted. Obviously, that's where the problems are. Remember, I am not here Friday, so my recommendation to you is to do that review tonight so that tomorrow you have questions, you know what they are, I can answer them, okay? After that, you're on your own. Like, I can answer questions Monday morning, but it would be beneficial for you to have the review done so you know what you know and don't know. All right, we go back to 9-1, which was, and this, 9-1 and 9-2 are what was on the quiz I just gave you back. 9-1 was your circles and your parabolas. Standard form of a circle, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. HK is your center. R is your radius. So for circles, same was true for your quiz. You would need to know, if I gave you the equation, if I gave it to you in non-standard form, how to put it into standard form by completing the square, then from there, how to identify the parts, how to graph a circle, and also if I gave you either a point and the radius or the diameter, endpoints of the diameter, something like that, how would you find the equation of the circle? So for each conic, be prepared to go both ways. Here's an equation, you figure out the stuff, or here's the stuff, you get the equation. Then came the parabolas. And remember, there's two kinds. Horizontal, meaning it points to the right or to the left. If it's horizontal, the y is squared. So this is y minus k squared equals 4px minus h. The to the right is a positive 4p. To the left is a negative 4p. Yeah. No. It points horizontal. And then vertical flips. Vertical points up and down. So x minus h squared equals 4py minus k. This time positive 4p points up, negative 4p points down. And remember, P equals the distance from the vertex to the focus and the distance from the vertex to the directrix. If I gave you an equation, and it could be that you have to complete the square to put it in standard form first, right? So you would complete the square. You only have to do it for one variable with a parabola because there'll be only one squared. But you'll need to be able to identify the vertex, the focus, which remember is a coordinate point, and the directrix, which is either a vertical line or a horizontal line, depending on the type of parabola. Remember with these that like when you put it into standard form, there can be nothing in front of the squared term. We would move it to the other side. And then there can be nothing attached to the raised to the first term. So if you had something like y minus 1 squared equals 10x minus 40, you would have to take out that 10. You'd have to make that 10x minus 4. Okay. Can be nothing here. On the front, there can be nothing in front. You would move it to the other side, either divide by it, multiply by a fraction, whatever. And then on the first term, you have to factor it out. Have to separate it out. Questions on parabolas? So if I give you information, it could be, here's the vertex, here's the directrix, here's the vertex, here's the focus, here's the directrix, here's the focus, and you'd have to be able to figure out the equation from there. Again, you're going to do both things. You're going to go from equation to information, and then information to equation. Questions on parabolas? Okay, then came the ellipses. So the ellipse that's horizontal means that it is wider than it is tall. That one, the x gets the a. So it is x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. Order does not matter. A is the biggest denominator. If it is a vertical ellipse, then it's, again, order doesn't matter. So I could still have it go x minus h squared. It just goes over the b squared plus y minus k squared, and that gets the a squared equals 1. Or reverse the order. Order does not matter because it's a plus in between. What does matter is which one gets the bigger denominator.
So we just keep it a squared first, like for everything?
You can. Then, yeah, then the y would go first on a vertical.
Oh. So the vertical, the a is under the y.
Correct.
And
The-
the horizontal.
It's under the x. Yep. And then your HK is your center. This is true for both kinds. Your A is center. 2 vertices. B is center to co-vertices. C is center to foci. Oh, I wrote that all right here. There. C squared equals A squared minus B squared for an ellipse. Remember, it's the opposite sign of your standard form. Both the vertices and the foci happen on the major axis, and the co-vertice happens on the minor axis. Major is 2A, minor is 2B. And eccentricity is C over A. Remember, it was not on your quiz. It will be on your test. C over A for both hyperbola and ellipses. The difference is for an ellipse, it's going to be in between 0 and 1, and for a hyperbola, it's going to be bigger than 1. Correct. Yep. Questions on ellipses. So same, you got to know, if I gave you information about the ellipse, could you give me the equation? And then if I gave you equation, could you give me information about the ellipse and graph it? And then we're back where we started the day. Hyperbolas, okay? So horizontal hyperbola is your parabolas that point to the right, or the branches that point to the right and the left. And for this, the x comes first. X minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. And vertical points up and down. Y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equals 1. This time, a is first. A is still center to vertices. B, center to co-vertices. C, center to foci. This time, C squared equals A squared plus B squared. Two A is called your transverse axis. That's your major, or your like horizontal or vertical one. And 2B is your conjugate axis, formerly known as your minor axis.
On the test, is it just going to be like, what's the transverse axis?
No, it could give you that. Usually it gives you that as the piece of information that leads you into what A or B is. So if it says transverse, that's divide by 2, that's your A. If it says conjugate, divide by 2, that's your B.
And is it going to ask you the co-vertices?
Yeah. So you don't have to, well, you have to graph it to get the box.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then same thing, like A and C are on your transverse axis. B is on your conjugate axis. Eccentricity, C over A again. And this time you have asymptotes. Actually, I'm going to put them up here where it's vertical, horizontal. Your horizontal asymptote is y equals k plus and minus b over a x minus h. And your vertical asymptote, y equals k plus and minus a over b x minus h.
And for that, we just leave it in the
Yep. Yeah. You can distribute and get it in a slope-intercept form if you want to use those to graph, but my recommendation was to graph using the box. And then you don't have to do that. Questions on that stuff? Okay, and then you can ignore everything under it for the rotation, but remember classifying. If A equals C, it's a what?
circle.
Good. If A times C is 0, parabola. You'll also be missing, right, just 1 squared variable. If A times C is greater than 0,
Ellipse.
good, and A times C is less than 0. Hyperbola. Sure. So this one would be positive product, and this would be a negative product. So they can both be positive or they can both be negative to give you an ellipse. Or a hyperbola, one is positive, one is negative.
For the parabola, how would it like look if it equals a...
Like you wouldn't have an A or a C. Like either it will be an x squared, so you have an A, and no y squared, so the C would be 0. Correct. And to me, that's the easiest one to spot. That and the circle, like the circle, they're the same. And then the parabola, one's missing.